And that brings me to my guest, Atlanta Braves ace Mike Soroka. Mike, thank you so much for joining me, man.
Of course, man. It's good to see you again. Last time we had a chance to talk, it was on the field after the World Series, so it was a quick one.
Yeah, that was a pretty cool thing to experience. Obviously we played against each other a while ago, which I want to talk about in a little bit. But to see, to fast forward and get to where we were at that point, my playing career over, but doing something that I now love for Fox Sports, talking about this game, and to see you there on the field after a World Series victory, that was pretty cool, man. What was that experience like for you? What was that whole playoff run and World Series experience like for you? I know you weren't playing. I know you were still rehabbing and coming back from an injury. What was that experience like for you?
It's actually quite a bit better for me than the year before. The year before, when I first got injured, the team went to the bubble. I stayed back in Atlanta. That was that was the tough one for me to kind of understand what happened, deal with the feelings that you're having, because, at the time, I think you wouldn't be human if you didn't feel slightly jealous that, you weren't a part of it. It's something that you work hard for all year, honestly, your entire career for those postseason games. And to just be out of it is difficult. But on the other hand, you're getting to watch some of the guys that you basically grew up with go out there and play in the playoffs, play on the biggest stage. Guys that I've seen grow for, 6-7 years now, seeing Freed in that game 6 was an extremely rewarding experience, to be honest with you. And I was kind of able to take an approach with it that, I get to watch it and I get to enjoy it, because at the end of the day, I could still be hurt on a bad team. I could be hurt in the minor leagues, hurt anywhere.
Point.
I still got lucky to be able to be basically an inside fan on a World Series team, and that was a lot of fun. I think I also kind of got to take an approach where I got to have the emotion a little bit more removed than most guys.
Yeah.
So I kind of was able to take an objective approach and see a little bit more and without the feeling involved. And I really think after the NLCS, I thought it was all ours, and it was a pretty cool thing to experience front row.
Well, you say like front row experience, like the best experience, almost like a fan, but this is an important question. Do you get a ring?
Oh yeah, no, of
Yeah.
course. I mean, you're a part of the team, and you're still obviously on the 40 man and all that kind of stuff, and it's definitely going to be again mixed emotions that day when we get the rings. It's going to be something that obviously I'll be proud of for them, but it's going to be something for me that I'm definitely going to look back on and not necessarily be able to feel like I exactly earned that with them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I know that's something that Ronald will probably go through as well. So that's just kind of making us all the more motivated to get back out there and do it again and earn one for the team and help them do it again.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that when you said that. It's so hard to repeat in baseball. It hasn't been done since the Yankees years and years ago. And I think a big reason of that is because you can be just as talented, but it's hard, I want to say, to like have that drive for 162 and then like you just experienced it. But I feel like with you guys, like you, yourself, Ronald, like that drive will be even more so there for you guys to be like, all right, this team did it. Now we're going to do it. And that has to play a factor in like how excited you guys are to get going with this year, right?
Absolutely. I think we're in a sweet spot in the clubhouse. I think we're in a good place to where, they came off a full season, lots of high emotions, but we still have those expectations. And like you said, for me and Ronald to be able to kind of essentially be fresh bodies, come into it with some invigoration that we didn't have previously. I think That goes a long ways. But you see the moves that we're making. Obviously, Olson's going to come. He's going to bang, and adding Kenley to the bullpen too. And we're deep. And I think that's the one reason I think it's so tough to repeat in baseball is honestly primarily due to health. You're looking, how many times you see a team that at the beginning of the year on paper is there, but ends up just, it's not even close to the same team by the end of the year. And I think that's something that if we do well, I think we have a shot. I don't see why not,
Yeah. So obviously you lose Freddie, you gain Matt Olson. At what point, and I was actually right next to you on the field after the World Series when I heard you talk about the team moving forward and hopeful that Freddie would re-sign, as I think everybody on the planet was. At what point did you actually realize that there's a chance he doesn't re-sign here? This might actually happen. And then you find out he does move on. What was that where were you emotionally this offseason when it came to him?
Yeah, I mean, being fully honest, I think most of us realized that was a very, very decent possibility once, there was no extension in spring training that year. I think, that didn't get done, and we knew he was going to be a free agent, and you never know. You always assume that, everybody'd like to reconvene back in Atlanta, but things happen. I think obviously through most of the lockout, that was the big name that we still were kind of waiting on. And we would have loved to have Freddie back, obviously. There's no doubt about it. But, at the end of the day, I think a lot of people and a lot of Braves fans were able to look at Matt he's a Georgia boy. He wants to be a Brave.
Yeah.
He's wanted to his whole career. He's a great guy. He's in there early working out. Work ethic is there. And I just think, he's going to be great for our team. He's going to be great for this franchise moving forward. And, things go on, but obviously we're excited to see Freddie again. And we play him pretty quickly, I think, 3 weeks into the season, or a third series or something like that. And that's going to be weird for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that can't imagine seeing him in another uniform, let alone a Dodger uniform. And we wish him the best, and we'll see him on the other side.
Are you guys coming out here, or are they going to Atlanta early in the year?
I think Braves are in LA.
Oh my God, I'm coming there. I'll see you in a couple weeks then, and we'll talk there because we got to make that happen. Okay, so that happens in 3 weeks. How crazy is that going to be, seeing Kenley Jansen potentially facing off to close a game against Freddie Freeman in reverse? Oh my God, that's going to be weird.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that one. That's definitely a pretty good role reversal there. But no, there's going to be a few, honestly, and I think given our history with the Dodgers over the last 3-4 years in the playoffs, it's going to be a really, really good series regardless.
Yeah. Look, I am one of the biggest Freddie Freeman fans in the world, but right before you came on, I was talking about the Atlanta Braves and doing a segment on them. And I believe that in 2022, the Atlanta Braves are a better team. I know you won a world championship, you lose a legend, but gain back Ronald, hopefully yourself at some point, some other studs. I really like what you guys have done this offseason. I think, in fact, you're a better team. And before we move on from this whole World Series offseason thing, I have to ask you about the parade. I saw a couple things that day that were awesome. One, you posted a photo of you catching a beer like you were Odell. That was sick. And also the video of the bus going 50 miles an hour down the middle of everybody. Talk to me about the day of the parade and how just fun and crazy that was. And tell me a crazy story from that day.
Yeah, that day was awesome. I didn't actually realize that the parade buses were moving like that at some point. I think that some people caught us at certain points where we either had to make up time. I don't know what happened, but at a certain point, I think we all realized we're on the bus. It's this is kind of moving. There's really no time to wave. You really see one person and then they're gone. And It wasn't until after when we saw it, and you could really tell because of all the buildings down in Midtown. All right, this is downtown, and people are just flying through its Fast and Furious parade. So that was pretty funny for us to see after the fact. No, I mean the beer catching and throwing was fun when the crowd was pretty manageable. You could kind of see there was only a few rows deep. You could tell somebody would kind of look at you, they'd hold up the beer, and you'd say, "Yeah, okay, we're going to be all right." But once we got to the Battery, and people started figuring out, I guess they already saw my post, or a bunch of other guys were posting. I'm sure Matt Minter, Jackson, those guys were making sure to get in on it. It was all good until we got to the Battery, and then you started seeing beers flying from like the 18th row, or there'd be someone on their 4th story of their apartment trying to toss one down to you. And you're thinking, like, if I miss this, somebody's taking it in the head, and I mean, like, it's bad news, right? So I honestly, those are the only ones that was a good day. I did like starting downtown Atlanta because I think we saw a lot of people that wouldn't have got the chance to come up to the Battery in basically Marietta. It's a big part of our fan base still, and it was good to get down there. And yeah, I think hopefully there's a next time, and if there is, we'll tell them to pump the brakes a little bit.
So you went from downtown to then up towards the stadium and through the Battery. I had never experienced the Battery until the World Series. Dude, that was one of the coolest experiences of my life, being there during the World Series and seeing the fans. How awesome was the fan base, and in particular, like the watch parties happening in the Battery and all that stuff? How cool was that?
Yeah, it was all cool. Everything was amazing, except for the traffic leaving. I mean, that whole area, I think we were told there was like 200,000 people between the people that came to the game and then all the people in the Battery. And it's just that one ring around the whole place, right? I'd heard people that were stuck in the parking garages till like 3 a.m. because it was just gridlocked. But no, other than that, I mean, seeing some videos too of the Battery when we were on the road, that was probably the coolest part because they packed it.
Yeah.
It was full. People get a chance to go out there and either, wait for a table for a while or get there at, 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon and be there all day. It's a beautiful, beautiful spot. We get to do lots of stuff out there, at Fan Fest and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really a good idea. Honestly, it was something that, I think a lot of teams are going to end up following when they build new stadiums. And like I said, it's a pretty cool thing to have.
Did you appreciate the chop during the World Series and the whole playoff run as much as I did? Like, I got the chills watching it. Like, I've seen it before. I knew it was cool, but I felt like it took on a new level in the playoffs when the lights would go out and everybody would do it. Were you just in the dugout like, this is sick?
Yeah, I was actually in the bullpen, so I get to kind of watch from that side, which I think is an even cooler spot. Especially when there's a reliever running in and the lights are going down. And obviously we went through some changes with the chop. That's no secret, and everything that we did there. And that's kind of a subject that's been avoided by a lot of us, but I think to agree with you that when the lights go down and when there's the game's on the line, there's a big situation, it carries some weight. It kind of seems to mean something. A lot of us that came up through the minor leagues in Rome, we hear it a ton. They hear it. Guy takes a walk in the second inning of a June baseball game, and you're hearing the chop, and you're kind of getting over it.
Yeah.
So for them to pump the brakes on that and really, say, okay, like, we need to let the fans actually carry it. So when they want it to happen, they'll make it happen so that when, Freddie Dansby hit the leadoff double in the 8th inning and we're in a tie game, that's when you let it go. You let it eat. And I think that's one of the cooler experiences and atmospheres I've ever felt in sports, for sure.
Same. It was truly incredible. Hey, I wanna talk a little about you and where you are currently. And in August of 2020, you tore your Achilles and have been out since. How are you doing? And when and I don't need like a specific date, just can we expect you back at some point this year, hopefully?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's at this point in my rehab, it's been a long one. It's been a lot of what ifs or unknowns, especially going the second time through. I've had to do quite a bit of growing in a lot of other places. It's a tough place to be. But at this point, I'm starting to be able to just see the light at the end of the tunnel, and some things can take time, but I know it's just a matter of time now. Everything's feeling good. I'm, getting out towards long toss again, and just starting to feel like an athlete again. The repair feels really, really strong. It's not going anywhere. It's been anchored in there. And, we made sure this time that it's absolutely as strong as can be. So, like I said, it's going to be a little bit longer. I was hoping, mid-season. That's still kind of our rough goal, but it just depends. It's not like being on the IL for something small that might only take a couple more days, and where you're going to be at. So we're kind of just taking it 2 weeks at a time right now. We're reevaluating every 2 weeks, saying, what do I need to work on? What's still just not there? And then going forward. And, I think the farther we get along and the more I'm just starting to feel like an athlete, it'll just be a matter of time. So I'm excited, but having to put my ego aside sometimes and pull the reins in and, just make sure I get the work that I need. Are most important right now, not what I'll need to be working on in 6 weeks. That's going to be what's going to get me there. And I can't wait for that moment.
Not to compare you to my dad, because my dad can't even remotely come close to throwing a baseball, but he tore his Achilles like 2 years ago. So I learned a lot about it. And apparently it's like the worst. It's like the worst thing you can do. The rehab is just long and awful, and it just was not good for him. So I certainly understand the rehab has been ridiculous. So walk me through what happened. So I know in August of 2020, you tore your Achilles, you were coming back, and then what happened? You re-tore your Achilles, right? So what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, lots of things, really. I mean, it's something that I don't think we're ever really going to have a firm answer for. Things just, there's basically probably a suture reaction to my initial repair. I went in for a clean out in April when things just started getting angry. Started getting to the point where it was just, tough to do small things like walk properly again. And basically we found all the sutures were just sitting in a ball. They hadn't been taken in by the tissue at all. The repair was made. It just, because of all that gunk in there, it just didn't have a ton of great tissue. And so we knew it was kind of just like, all right, well, take them out and give it more time to scar up. And, we did that, but, hindsight, it probably needed to just happen again to give a good inflammatory response, a good ability to heal the second time. And that was without a doubt one of the toughest moments of my life when that happened that day, basically just walking into the field. But having reassurance that day, talking to doctors and everybody that, it doesn't make you any less likely to come back from a second one. It's just going to take longer. And if you're in for the work, then you'll be just fine. So that was never a question. And we got back to it right after surgery, and I guess the nice part was I knew what the rehab entailed already, so I was a little more ready for it the second time, and thankfully it's moved by fairly quickly.
Dude, I am so pumped to get you back out there. I can't imagine the whole process and what like so you tear the Achilles and then obviously that's down here. What can you do for your arm? Like can you just sit on a bucket and just keep your arm like strong that way? Are you throwing at any point early on in the rehab process?
Yeah, I think the first time I did it, I was throwing on a knee, a couple weeks after surgery, um, just to kind of keep it going
Yeah.
because my goal was opening day, let's go and throw a complete season. And um, the second time, once I figured out, you're really not going to be ramping up again until spring training next year. I took a little more time off throwing, but got back to it, and yeah, on one knee. So I dropped my right knee back,
Yeah.
and then you can get out there and you can at least feel it out. Keep those little muscles going. I mean, you know how it is when you don't throw for so long, and then you pick a ball up, and it can take a couple of weeks to kind of
Yeah.
get things going again. So I made sure to kind of keep on some stuff and get some soft tissue recently as we started to open it up again and get back to long toss. But my arms felt great so far, and I've also gotten a chance to learn a couple more things about lower body mechanics
Yeah.
and some things that I think are going to help me when I get back, and I'm excited to do this.
I think it's going to help. Obviously, those things are going to help you once you get back. I think, and I'm hopeful mentally, like this whole process is going to help you when you get back as well. So I'm excited for that to happen. But look, let me take you back a little ways to a cool story here. I get drafted in 2013 to the Detroit Tigers organization. And in my 2014 spring training, Mike, we play these 16-year-old kids from Canada, Team Canada. And on the mound is Mike Soroka. We played each other when you were 16 years old, okay? And I remember going to face you guys, and I'm like, what is happening here? Why are we playing this team of a bunch of 16-year-olds? And then you get on the mound and just like, I think you like broke my bat and I like rolled over or something, which in hindsight I feel great about because you break a lot of bats. But what was like so you guys as Team Canada just came down to Florida to play a bunch of professional athletes? What was that all about?
We're very, very fortunate with the Baseball Junior Canada team to um, basically come down and play the youngest professionals. So, a lot of times we end up down there in extended. We get to play the extended teams, which is a lot closer of a matchup.
Yeah.
Usually in spring training and then in instructs, we usually get our doors beat in a little bit because we're just not as strong, not as fast.
Yeah, that's like prospects.
Although we have a number of players on that team that are going to go on and be on those teams in the future. As 16, 17-year-olds, you're just not ready for that. So I remember definitely against Detroit, my first one in instructs, because we look at rosters, you look at names, and obviously Verlander jumps out, and that was one that I wanted to make sure. I was like, all right, I'm gonna give this guy everything I got. I mean, that's I still say where I learned how to compete and pitch when you are overmatched. I mean, my first trip or two, I was still like mid upper 80s, which for you guys, to be honest with you, was probably under the hitting speed. If I was at my low end, if I was in the mid 80s, that's under hitting speed. So you get lucky. But it was the next year I went back and I was like in that 88, 91 range, and I got smacked. That was one where I was like,
absolutely.
all right.
I remember facing you guys
out.
and your first, because I faced you in that first year, right? When you were like 85, 86?
I think so, yeah. But I was throwing change-ups, breaking balls. I was getting everything over.
I remember facing you that first time, and everybody on that team was like low to mid 80s, and we're just like, what? Like, we go from facing like in in like team inter squads, we would go from facing like Fulmer and Corey Knebel throwing like 100, and then we go like straight to you guys, and you're throwing like 85, and it's like, oh my God, what's happening here? And still somehow it broke my bat, which is probably why I'm sitting here and you're sitting there. But that so one thing I will never forget, we faced each other there, and then a couple of years later, you're an all-star. 2019, you become an all-star, and I see you again in Cleveland. You and my brother and myself shared the same agent, but at that time I was done. So you had the same agent, and he texted me saying he was with you and that I think you know him. Come say hi. So I go over there and sit with you and your dad, and the first thing your dad said, this is 5 years later at the time, is, "Oh, I think I have video of you and that at bat on my phone." And I was like, "What?" And you were like, "Yeah, he keeps video of like so many things." What?
Yeah, no, he videoed everything, and mostly to be able to put out there online, because we knew that the best times that I would get to see were with the Team Canada, and obviously there was a good amount of people always connected. And when we're playing teams like the instructs teams, there's always player development people watching and all that kind of stuff. But he was always videoing to make sure I could get it out online, so I didn't have to go to all those showcases and everything. I think I picked a couple like area codes and the Jupiter World Wood Bat, but I never did anything else for self promotion. It was just take it out. And actually, I bet you if you go to YouTube, I think it's probably still up. I don't think I would have taken it down.
Oh no!
But it would have been one of my highlight videos from probably my 11th grade season. I think I set the video actually to like Rocky Like a Hurricane by the Scorpions. And I'm pretty sure there's the outs from that game in Detroit. I'm throwing from like a really, really low 3/4 slot, just like turning sinkers over. And it's pretty funny to go back and look at that. I was probably like a $160 soaking wet that trip as well.
Just blasting Rocky Like a Hurricane while you're 160 pounds throwing 85-mile-an-hour sinkers is the best visual of all time. So your dad actually, I think he like found that video, by the way. He's like, "Oh, wait a second. I think I have the video of you and Mike facing each other 5 years ago." And I'm just like, Mike is now, and I'm just here to say hi to you because I'm so pumped up for you and where you were at your career at that time and where you still are. And then I have to like be ridiculed about getting my doors blown off by an 85-mile-an-hour sinker 5 years ago, and I'm just like, great, this is sick. I'm gonna go now. But that All-Star weekend, and that was in Cleveland. How cool was that for you? Your first All-Star experience, and probably a little overwhelming at the time. What's something you look back on, and whether it be a conversation that you had or something that happened on the field, that you'll remember for the rest of your life?
Yeah, I think I think honestly that's one of the first, if not the only experience where I've ever had where I wondered if I belonged. That's a pretty crazy one. I have always kind of taken pride in myself to be quite self-confident to where I'm in a competition situation. I know I can beat whoever's at the plate. But being in a room of some guys that I grew up watching, you got Scherzer, Kershaw, they've got like the number 8 or 9 patch on their uniform. It's the 8th or 9th time they've been there. Seeing that and where I started that year is basically hurt, got optioned right out of camp, but only threw like 2 outings in AAA and then got called back up. That was one where I was like, hi, did I just get lucky and I strung the best 15 games of my life together at once? Did I just, what happened here and why am I out here? But that was one where you kind of have to go back and you got to validate it and say, all right, I did earn this. I put in a lot of work to get here, and good things happen when you're just out there competing. But I think the one experience I don't think I'll ever forget in that situation is Paul Bird, who works for I guess Valley Sports Southeast now. Basically, he caught me on the way out, and then we talk a lot because he's with the Braves a ton, and he's like, hey man, would you be able to wear a mic out there in BP? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I haven't done it before, and I feel like I can conjure up some decent conversation at least. But I get out there and I realize I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know any of these guys. Like, I don't know what to say to make things funny, or if they're just gonna think I'm weird. Like, I don't know what's going on. So we're standing next to a group that was having a conversation. It was probably like Bueller, DeGrom, and Scherzer, and they're talking about grips and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I can't be next to you guys while this is going on. I gotta go over there. And Scherzer came out to me the next day in the outfield, and he kind of laughed and he says, "You learned." He said, "You're not wearing one today." I said, "Nope." I said, I went running back in there after that, and I said, I gave the mic back to Paul. I was like, "Sorry, man, I can't do this."
So he saw you
forget
wearing
that.
the mic, and like they knew you were wearing it, and you like creep a little closer, and then you're just like, nah, I'm gonna leave. And he noticed that.
Yeah, I think he did notice it and was just like, yeah, I'm like, they can't hear this. So I was like, all right, I'm gone.
That's incredible. So you threw in that All-Star game, right?
Yep. Yeah, I threw the 5th or 6th inning. I went out there. I'd watched a bunch of guys warm up, DeGrom and Kershaw, and watched them warm up in the bullpen. And I think I'd been calming myself down so much that whole game, where I was like, you need to chill out here. You got 5 innings to go until you can kind of let the adrenaline spike and get out there. So I'm trying to chill myself out the whole time in the bullpen. And I get out there and I'm still kind of like watching the game. I'm warming up. It's my first time out of the bullpen, honestly. I think I did it once in low A because we had a big league rehab.
Yeah.
I threw a horrible bullpen. It was like, I think Mark Pryor was there, and he probably was watching and was just like, this is terrible.
Who's this guy?
And so I got out there. I said, all right, here we go. I couldn't really feel the ball coming out of my hand. I get out there and I calmed myself down so much that I honestly I had no adrenaline left. And I was just kind of like, I look up the radar. I'm like 91. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, let's go. Let's fire it up. I think I got out of it like with a 3-0 pop out, a 3-1 pop out, and I forget who it was. I think Alonso and I met him Muncy actually in at second base that made a really good play to get me out of it. I threw like 3 strikes the whole inning and got out 1, 2, 3, and I mean it worked. But I think I'll know next time I can let it out and just go have fun and let it eat.
I think you're the only. I need to ask you how you did this, because a big problem, I don't want to say a problem of mine, but in my like playing career, when it was something, I'd like get so built up and get like so like my adrenaline would just be pumping, and oftentimes it would be an adverse. It wouldn't help me. It'd have an adverse effect because I was like too amped up. And you said in an all-star game, when all eyes are on you and you're super amped up, you were able to do the opposite. You might have brought yourself too far down. How on earth are you able to go from up here to down here?
Yeah, honestly, I got really into a lot of breathing techniques. Obviously, the Wim Hof is a big one, and I've talked about it before. But adrenaline management is always something that I've worked towards because it feels good. Like, what it feels like when your adrenaline spikes and you're actually able to use it, and it works properly. It wakes up your fine motor skills. It doesn't shut those off. I think that was what I was kind of always on the path to chase was, I found in low A, I love getting angry. I loved was like, I'm going to get angry. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to, blow the doors off everybody. I'm going to, put everybody down and try and strike out 27 dudes. And it would work for like 2 innings. And then my adrenaline was just like in the tank. I'm done. I'm just like, I'm beat. And I just couldn't be that person. So I think eventually I got to the point where I was like, all right, you gotta bring it down a little bit and find a sweet spot. And I could in those high adrenaline situations it worked. And I think, my first 10, 15 games in the big leagues, it's just so much new stimulus
Right.
that, if you work to calm it down, you're going to bring it to a good level. But I think at that point, because I had those 5 innings just to kind of sit there and breathe and chill, it was kind of like, yeah, I got out there and it was this out of body experience that I just didn't feel like I was actually doing it. And I think that was more to do with it than anything else, was just like, but I think I woke up honestly after the 3-0 leadoff batter with the pop out. I got lucky, and then it was like, all right, there's 95. Like, okay.
You
we're
catch
right
a break,
here, but
you just serve up a 3-0 sinker, you catch a break, and then you're like, what am I doing? Let's go. And then you're like, then you pump in 95 and you're good to go.
yeah, I mean, the worst thing you can do is get too fired up and then you're just muscling everything. And then you're trying way too hard. And I get in way more problems with that than if I'm too calm. So, I guess I just took it down too much and lost that little bit of edge that you need to kind of get you over and just play the game.
Hey, speaking of All-Star games that year, right before the All-Star game this past year, Ronald goes down and tears his ACL. I mean, it was awful. But now we're like watching video of him hitting like absolute moonshots, and he's talking about like how he's going to be ready. He wants to be there opening day, but people are like, no, pump the brakes on that. What is he as close as it seems he is? I mean, how is this even possible that he's as close to he is coming back?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was never a doubt that he was going to heal up great. And, he's done some freaky things in the past. I think, just being able to watch him run and some of the things that he can do. He is one of those people that's just built a little differently. I think at this point, I think he's probably about 8 months out, I think, from, his surgery. And
Oh, wow.
I think, it's something that they've got to talk about. I have no idea what's going on. I pay attention to my schedule and that's about it. But if, I know they'd floated the idea of just DHing him, and then getting the running stuff in separately. And then he was ready to be in the outfield again and be a burner on the bases, kind of cut him loose when that's time. But yeah, I mean, that dude could hit home runs off one leg. I mean, let's be honest, his hands and his ability to create power with what he's got is I think next to none. I think, a lot of people with his power tend to be quite a bit bigger, and it's just incredible to watch. I've got to do it, 7 years now since I got drafted. Yeah, that's no surprise. He's gifted, and he always will be.
I always tell this story about him. I was in High A when the Braves organization moved to Kissimmee. So it was the Fire Frogs or whatever it was. I think that was it. And Acuña is on the team. So we get down like 17-1. We're getting killed. And I walk into the dugout. I was playing right field, and our manager goes, who wants to pitch? And naturally, I'm like, me. I want to pitch. And because I pitched in college, so I'm like, this is fine. I got this. So I go into the bullpen. I play right field one inning. I'm hitting that next inning, but I run straight to the bullpen. I throw like 10 pitches, and Mike, I swear I was throwing 105 miles an hour. I just knew I was. I knew I was throwing absolute gas. I go into the dugout, put my helmet on quick. I go punch out at the plate like I normally do, and then I'm like, all right, here we go. Back out on the mound. And I get out there. The first batter I face was, I believe, Alex Jackson. Struck him out 3 straight fastballs. My dad has that one on video. So then the next batter, I'm like, oh my God, this is going great. Next batter comes up. I get ahead 0-2, and I'm a position player pitching, right? So it's like the catcher's just like 1, 1, 1. I shake off. I'm 0-2. I shake off. I'm like, no, I got a good curveball. I want to throw. So I get the curveball sign. I come set. I throw a curveball, and it was the best curveball I've ever thrown in my life. It was disgusting. It was going to bounce off the plate almost. And this guy reaches out and hits an absolute rocket launcher off the wall in right center field. And I'm like, who is this guy? That was Ronald Acuña. And I was like, okay, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. The guy is just one of the biggest freaks that I have ever seen.
Yeah, I think everybody's got, if you've seen him play and you played him enough in the minor leagues, I think everybody has, some sort of
Story
crazy
like that.
story about what he did. I think I remember one series in Jackson, because in Double A in Mississippi, you play 5-game series back then, and I know they're, full week series now, but I think he was like 3 for 4, 4 for 5 every single game. And I'm telling you, everything he swung at was absolutely destroyed. And I remember talking to people, like, I think I got to first base after I'd been hitting it, and the first baseman was just like, that's dumb. It's dumb what he's doing, because it's like every time he swings the bat, it's like 110, 115, just a laser show. And we knew, I think that was the first year where we knew what we were going to see going forward. That was where it was like, there's no doubt he's going to be a future MVP.
I let you get going, put into words how excited you are for this 2022 season.
Yeah, I don't think I can, honestly. For me personally, it's going to be one that's probably going to be more rewarding for myself than my very first time in the big leagues. Every time you get that taken away from you and have to work back to it, it just means that much more. And I'm actually trying not to think about that moment too much, because I think I'll get a little carried away and want to, skip steps and just get there, get to the end. But, it's going to be a moment that I know I will cherish forever, and something that, I don't think I'll ever forget. So this year's going to be awesome, and it's exciting to see these guys and get back working with them. And, I missed it, and I can't wait.
I know I'm pumped for that day, man. For real. I've always been a really big fan of yours since, I met you and knew you from years ago, and then just watching your career. I'm really pumped for you, man, and everything you've been able to get to, and hopefully you get back out there this year. Thank you so much for joining me and hopping on, and you're welcome back on at any point.
Thank you, Ben. We'll have to do it again when I'm back to being me.
We'll get you back on when you're back out there, man. Thanks again, and good luck with the end of your rehab, and good luck with this season.
Thank you so much.